Coach.
That's me.
Man, how are you today?
How am I? I'm glad to be back at the halftime. It is good to be here. It's good to be back. Obviously, it's been hard to get back into the studio for season 2, but we knew that was coming up, just with basketball and personal things going on and stuff like that. So, no, it's good to be back. Good to be back with another episode of the best sports coverage on all digital platforms.
And
baby.
what episode is this, Coach? Let the people know.
It's on the screen. It's episode 53, ladies and gentlemen.
Episode 53 to the Halftime Podcast community. We want to say peace, blessings, and prosperity to you as always. You know how we rock it off. Coach, this week has been crazy. It's been a lot all over the place. We've been working, getting ourselves set up for this high school basketball season that is shortly coming around the corner. Before we know it, it'll be November 25th, and that'll be the first game of the season. And then before we know it, the season will be over, and we'll either be happy, upset, or it didn't go super bad or it didn't go super good. But hopefully we'll be celebrating. We'll be happy towards the end of the season. But I'm really liking the way things are coming together. So I'm kind of very, very excited with how this season is going to go for us. And hopefully this season doesn't break up our friendship, because if that happens, then it might be hard to keep giving you the best sports coverage on all digital platforms. But hopefully we don't let the things outside of the halftime stop us from doing what we do, and that's giving you the best show possible. All right, Coach, since it's been a minute since we've been on the halftime, let's get right into it. You ready to start the show?
Yes, sir. Let's get right back into it.
All right, as always, you know how it go. We haven't done it in a while, but it's going to be the halftime give and go. Just to remind you of the rules, we got 30 seconds to talk. After those 30 seconds, we keep it rocking and rolling. No more, no matter. All right, you ready? Let's go.
Yes, sir.
All right, right out top for the halftime give and go. Let's talk about Wemby, and that's on me. Victor Wembanyama is dominating thus far in the NBA. He has the Spurs undefeated right now. I think they are 5-0, looking to continue to go forward. Look, I'm just going to say it now. He might be making an early case for MVP for this season, and also we might be watching the GOAT begin to form. Because I do think with his size and his capabilities, we've never seen a player like this. And if it really comes into real fruition and materialize, we'll never see a player like this dominate again. Yes, all right, let's continue to move on. Another rookie. Well, Wemby's not a rookie, but a rookie for the Philadelphia 76ers, VJ Edgecombe. He started off really, 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 really hot. Fuego. He's starting to cool off a little bit, but I do think he's going to be very impactful and useful right alongside Tyrese Maxey. And when Jared McCain come back, I'm more so interested to see how he'll be into the mix when Paul George returns and how that'll finally all materialize. But I think the Philadelphia 76ers definitely got a good one in VJ, and I hope to see more of him going forward. All right, Coach, it's on you. Tonight we have Game 7 of the World Series. The Toronto Blue Jays look to make history. Do you think they will be able to make it happen tonight, Coach?
Oh, man, as much as I want to say yes, I also know who's on the other side of the dugout. And there's a certain man that's definitely making his case for, GOAT conversation. I'm just going to put that out there. Just the way he's able to play, to the two sides of the baseball is absolutely insane. But I don't know. I think it's going to be a great game. I think it's going to be a classic. It's been a classic of a series so far, so excited for Game 7 tonight.
They win or lose, Coach?
I've got the Dodgers winning.
All right, look at making bold choices. All right, the Miami Dolphins general manager, Chris Greer, out of there. 3 strikes, you're out.
Yes,
what
sir.
do we think of that?
He is out, and he deserves to be out. He's honestly been very reckless, I believe, with putting this team together.
Okay.
With some of their more recent success in kind of the past years has been very distasteful, I guess you could call it, because it's like, yeah, they had somewhat of a decent record, but they also didn't feel too good about that record because of the talent on the team. Very short-sighted, didn't have a long-term plan in place, and that's why he got the boot, because Tua ain't that guy.
Nah, he's not, but let's continue to talk about another guy who's at the helm right now, but let's pivot to the NBA. Coach Doug Christie for the Sacramento Kings. Will he last this season?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, he got granted the head coach position and not just the interim head coach title. So we will see how that goes. Obviously, we know of his playing days, and he was very much a defensive guy. Sacramento isn't showing themselves to be a very defensive team whatsoever. So
Not at all.
I feel bad. I don't think he's stepping into a great situation just because he's got talent on the team, but it's talent that doesn't mesh well together. So he hasn't been set up for success. I think he still lasts through the season, though.
All right, but last but not least is back on me. Let's talk about a young player for the Chicago Bulls, and that is Modest Buzelis.
Little Boozy Vert.
Little Boozy Vert, as Stacey King has affectionately nicknamed him. I think he is growing into a greater role for the Chicago Bulls. I like the development. I'm still seeing signs of that outside shot not being as consistent, and that's going to be key to how well his season will go and how far this Chicago Bulls team will go. But I like what I'm seeing from Lil Boozy Vert, and I hope that Modest can continue to grow and blossom. All right, Coach, that has been the halftime give and go. We want to remind everybody to continue to follow us at the Halftime Pod on our YouTube channel. All right, you can follow us there. You can also follow Coach Malcolm and Coach Conrad. You can follow me at Coach M_Godden. You can follow Coach Conrad at Coach KDZ. If you have any questions about any basketball related conversations, football, sports, anything you want to talk about as far as the halftime podcast goes, or if you just want to have a little nice back and forth banter with like any of the things that we've said on one of our shows, we're more than welcome to communicate with anybody that's a participant of watching what we do. We also want to remind everybody that we have merchandise out for sale. All right, you can go to our link in our bio on Instagram, but we also have codes that you can use. You can use halftime5 for 5% off any purchases. You can use the code halftime free for purchases over $100 to get free shipping, and you can use the code halftime. Was it 15 or 10?
15.
15 for 15% off items that you purchase that's over $70 or more. Okay, so again, you can go to the link in the bio to see any of the information for our merch, and as well, you can follow us at Coach M_Got It, Coach KDZ, and you can follow and subscribe to our YouTube channel at the Halftime Pod. All right, Coach.
There we go.
A little rusty on that, but we're getting right back into it, baby. All right, let's move on to our favorite game. You ready to get our game going?
Let's do it, man. We haven't done it in a while.
We have not, but you know our game is who's cooking and who should stay the out the kitchen. Number one on who's cooking, we got the Oklahoma City Thunder. They are leading the Western Conference right now. And I think what I'm saying from the Oklahoma City Thunder is they may repeat. I wasn't on the bandwagon to believe that they could potentially get that done, but I'm a believer now. I'm a believer. They look like they have that championship pedigree that's following them from last season. They look like they're controlled and poised and know exactly who they are and how they have to play. They don't seem to get rattled in any moments. They're cool, calm, and collected. And as long as they know that they have Shea to give the ball to, it doesn't feel like they're worried at all. What do you think of this OKC Thunder team to start this new season of the NBA?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be worried at all either if I had a free throw merchant on my team as well. But regardless, he gets to the foul line. He's a great scorer regardless of that.
Facts.
And, I mean, it's just such a well-constructed team. I mean, Sam Presti has done a phenomenal job over there in Oklahoma. And
is he the greatest GM of all time?
No, I mean, I don't think you can say greatest GM of all time yet. He only has
one championship under his
belt. He still needs to get a couple more, so we'll see how that ends up. But, I mean, like you said, I believe I said it in one of our Coach's Corner segments that you could also catch on YouTube. I believe this team definitely has the capability to repeat. I do believe it depends on who they get matched up with in the West, and also I guess whoever they meet in the finals. I mentioned that I believe the only team from the East, if Oklahoma City is able to make it to the finals, I think the Knicks are probably the only team that puts up a fair fight against this Oklahoma City team, just based on the matchups that they'd be able to put out there in the lineups. But this team is very well equipped. They're great. They're got great coaching over there. They are well coached. They're very fundamentally sound. And I think the only thing that might hold this team back is if they do start to get banged up and injured at some times, which is the case every year. I mean, you look at the NFL, which we'll get into, very soon. You look at the Baltimore Ravens, another team that is very well constructed, but injuries when they hit. When it rains, it pours, right?
Yes, it does.
So that's nothing we wish upon the Oklahoma City Thunder, but that's honestly the only thing I see stopping them in the near future, because this team right now looks unstoppable as they've moved to 6-0 in the NBA so far.
All right, let's continue to move on to another team that's cooking, and surprisingly, it's our very own Chicago Bulls.
Man, never thought we would say that.
No,
to be honest
me neither.
With you.
I never thought that. They are currently 5-0. Obviously, we have a graphic that says they're 4-0, but that was obviously made prior to today. They played a game just yesterday against the New York Knicks. Played last night. So they're 5-0, and I want to give them kudos, give them claps, applaud that. Am I sold on the Chicago Bulls being back, baby? Absolutely not. They have a stretch of games that's coming right now that I do believe is really going to be the barometer for really how great this team is going to be and how competitive they are really. And that is New York against New York at their place. They have Milwaukee, they have Cleveland, they have San Antonio, and they have Philadelphia all in the stretch. It's not in the exact order, but these are the next teams that they have. If they manage to come out of this situation going 8-2, 9-1, 10-0, or something like that, you got me on board. You got me sold. You got me sold. Do I think that's going to happen? Absolutely not. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to lose all 5 either, but the way I see them coming out of this, I won't be surprised if it's 6-5 or a 7-4 or 6-5, 7-4. Oh, it wouldn't be 7-5. It'll be. Oh, would it be 7-5? No, it wouldn't be 7-5.
No, they got next 5 games.
Yeah, so it'd be 7-3.
There you go.
Gotta do my math. These kids been messing with my brain all day and a little slow. It'll be like 7-3. I can see them coming out like that, 6-4 or something like that. But if they go, like I said, 9-1, 10-0, or 8-2, then I'm right on board. What are your thoughts on that? If they, how do you perceive the Chicago Bulls currently now?
Yeah, no, I'm right with you, hand in hand in that, step for step. Like, I think this team is very, very exciting to watch. I think they've been producing and putting out a very entertaining product on the floor for sure. But I don't know how consistent it is going to be able to be. Obviously, they've got some guys starting to get a little bit more banged up. As guys return to the lineup, I wonder how that's going to affect the flow of everything too, because you got to find minutes for Kobe White. Whose minutes are you cutting? Is it going to be Io's, which he's been proving himself so far this season as a very crucial role player?
Probably Trey Jones.
Yeah, Trey Jones probably gets cut out of the lineup almost completely at some point. Isaac Okoro could see limited minutes at times as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Bulls play this off once guys come back. But we still don't know what time. I don't know what timetable at least Kobe White's return is. But I don't want to take away anything from the Bulls. It is the first time they started off 5-0 since the Jordan era.
Yes.
Obviously 4-0 was in that 21-22 season,
when
that
we
Cinderella
first got Lonzo.
season, and all that good stuff. But yeah, it's been fun to watch. Modest is playing great ball. Josh Giddey has looked. He's doing everything I've been asking for. He's scoring more, he's being more aggressive, and on top of that, he's keeping up the same production and playmaking and rebounding and stuff like that. Only thing I wish I could ask for a little bit more, and honestly, maybe the stat lines don't show it because he has been putting up good performances, is for Vooch to be more aggressive. I feel like a lot of times we miss him in the post when he's got mismatches, or he just kicks it right back out for whatever reason. But hats off to this Bulls team starting off 5-0. You're giving us a product to watch. I've actually subscribed to CHSN for the first time in my life with Coach Malcolm, and I never thought I'd be here actually watching Bulls games every night, but here I am. You guys got me hooked a little bit, but next 5 games are going to show, I think, what this team is actually going to be like for the rest of the season.
Absolutely. I'm right there with you. All right, Coach, let's move on to our favorite part of the game. Who should stay out the kitchen? And number 1 on who should be out of the kitchen right now, let's stick in the NBA. That is the Brooklyn Nets. Look, I'm going to say this. I really thought Brooklyn was going to have a chance to be a much better team than what they're showing. Now, the season is still young, it's still premature. They still have time to figure things out and work themselves into a better situation. But I thought with the talent of Cam Thomas, with the talent of Michael Porter Jr., Nicholas Claxton, and that group of players that they have right there, I thought that they would be a lot more competitive than what they have been showing. And they have been showing a team that has no idea what they're doing. They're going out there and pretty much just playing a lot of pickup basketball. It's a lot of one-on-one, not a lot of team chemistry and work and flow to it. Pretty much the exact opposite of what we're seeing in the Chicago Bulls. Now, I'll say the Chicago Bulls team has been together a little bit longer. They've had a little bit more time to develop some camaraderie and unity amongst each other.
And they don't have a Cam Thomas.
And they don't have a Cam Thomas on the team until Kobe White shows back up.
That's true.
Then you have your version of a Cam Thomas in that way, and that's why it's going to be interesting to see. But sticking on Brooklyn, I wasn't expecting this to be the start to their season. I was expecting a little bit more, but for right now, I'm not going to say they have to get out the kitchen, but I am going to say that they need to step away from the stove. What are your thoughts on Brooklyn right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was very striking and important to note when Michael Porter Jr. got interviewed after one of the games, and he said, like, well, it's honestly hard to have a functioning NBA offense when, you've got young point guards at the helm. And, it is true. Like, Igor Demon has not been performing maybe as, transitioning as smoothly as we thought he was going to. He definitely has great potential and capabilities to get there, but it hasn't shown yet.
He's a rookie.
He's rookie, but that's to be expected when you do draft a rookie player. It is an absolute anomaly that you get guys like VJ Edgecombe that could just come into the league and put in numbers like that,
or LeBron, or
even Wemby when he was a rookie. You know what I mean? So there's always going to be ups and downs, and that's what this Brooklyn team is seeing. Maybe a little bit of a lack of leadership as well in that locker room, I think, is a huge thing. So,
which you would think Michael Porter Jr. would be the one to offer that, because he's
especially coming from a championship winning team and
he's a champion.
Denver. Exactly. So it's interesting to see how that'll be. How that will change from now, but I could see this Brooklyn team kind of stringing together a few couple of wins in these next couple of games. But I don't know. It doesn't seem very encouraging so far. I feel like a lot of Brooklyn fans and the players themselves have already kind of dropped their heads, and we're barely, 2 weeks into the season.
Yeah, man.
So that is not the time you want to be asking questions about your roster already.
Yes, that's insane. But we'll see how this Brooklyn Nets team unfolds for the rest of the season. If not, they'll probably be making some adjustments and some movements by the trade deadline. But let's pivot back to the NFL for a franchise that should have the fire department right now screaming and helping and getting everybody they can, because they definitely are burning down the building. And that is the Miami Dolphins. I have no idea what they are going to do with this franchise. This should be a CFL team at this point.
Okay.
Or an Arena Football League team, because they have no business being in the NFL. Them, along with the Cleveland Browns, they're neck and neck for who can be the most dog water franchise of all time. Since Dan Marino, the Miami Dolphins have done nothing. And even with Dan Marino, they did nothing. He was just a wonderful, great statistician at the quarterback position who just could put up numbers by himself. Arguably one of the most gifted quarterbacks of all time, right? But the Miami Dolphins have done nothing. Nothing. And they perpetually put together situations where their fans are pretty much showing up because there's nothing to do on Sunday sometimes in Miami. Either go to church and repent for your sins on the weekend, or go see a football game. That's about it.
Yeah.
So I don't know what they're going to do. I think they just need to clean the entire house, from the GM to the presidents of operations to the administration to the executives to the coaches
to the social media director.
Everybody
everything
needs to be fired.
Yeah, I mean
the mascot too. Whoever's doing the mascot, get out too. I'm sorry for you, but everybody needs to go. And if you could fire fans, fire some of them too. Everybody needs to be gone, because this has gotten absurd with how bad they are. Coach, what do you make of this?
Yeah, I feel bad because I do have a friend that I speak to, and he, for whatever reason, happens to be a Miami Dolphins fan.
Oh my God.
And, I feel for him because I don't know how you could, and I'm saying this as a Bears fan, which, in some ways, I feel like I have no right to speak on other franchises being porous.
We don't.
But I feel like in this case, I do.
Yes.
Because this is, this situation has been absolutely crazy to watch, see it unfold. When Mike McDaniel, took the helm and, we thought he was going to be this offensive guru type of coach.
Yes.
And that's what we were seeing a couple of, a couple of seasons, right? For a little bit. And we thought he was going to be kind of like that, nerdy leader that, if we do this equation, then we will score 6 points. That clearly has not applied to actually the logistics on the field. And I mean, I guess he's definitely lost the locker room at this point. I think it's just a matter of time until we see his departure from Miami, which, by the way, whatever organization is lucky enough to land him as OC, that's a team I'm looking out for next year because he's going to get an offensive coordinator job somewhere, and they are going to take a massive stride forward. I don't know who's going to get him, but it's comparable to like. Now, I don't even know what situation I could call it. Like
sort of like when Josh McDaniels always goes to other places and become an offensive coordinator.
I mean,
again. He kind of builds things back up together.
Kind of like that in a way, you know what I mean? So it's gonna be interesting to see. But
do you think he's just not suited as a head coach? Do you think that's what it is?
I think it was maybe a little bit premature. I don't think he was necessarily fully ready to be an NFL head coach. Like you look at certain guys in the league, kind of their first couple of years as head coach, they may not be ready as well, but I think Mike McDaniel's situation is a lot different because he legitimately has zero respect in that locker room at this point anymore, and I feel like we haven't seen that, and you don't see that normally at the NFL level. If that does happen, it's a guy that's been there, has been kind of floating around the league here or there, but now with a guy like this that has been at this franchise as the head coach and almost a little bit homegrown to a certain extent, and this is the result of it. It's sad, but
it is what it is.
It is what it is.
All right, that's been our game of who's cooking and who should stay the fuck out the kitchen. All right, Coach, are you ready to move on?
I'm ready to hear this next song because we haven't heard it in a while.
Let's get into the halftime report. There it is. Yes, baby. Yes. I was able to hold that note. See, that's how I know I'm getting better. Whenever I'm able to hold that little note when we get the halftime report and I'm able to string it along, that's how I know my health is with me.
Wow,
those moments where I crack and I can't hold it, that's how I know I probably need to go get some work, some Hall, some tea, some little medicine, some Robitussin, all that good
stuff.
stuff.
You're never escaping these Unk allegations. I'm so sorry,
whatever.
man.
I could be on.
You do it to yourself.
Whatever,
You've embraced it after today's.
After today, I've embraced it. I realized, my knees. I commend you. That's my awesome. Knees ain't kneeing like they used to. And it's all right. It's okay. All right, let's get into Week 8, a review of Week 8 in the NFL. We had Miami actually getting a win against Atlanta. We had Indianapolis putting BTA to the Tennessee Titans. We had Denver, which I did not expect, putting BTA to the Dallas Cowboys. The Buccaneers obviously beat the Saints. The Bears, which we'll get into, they lost to Baltimore. Buffalo, BTA to the Panthers. We saw that coming. Patriots beat Cleveland, another BTA. The game that surprised many, the New York Jets walked away with a victory against Cincinnati, which I'm finally ecstatic about and excited for because Justin Fields finally has gotten a victory under his belt with the New York Jets, and they won't go winless. Houston beat San Francisco, which I thought could happen, and I've said over this next stretch of game for Houston, while they're at home, they're going to have to pull out these games if they really want a chance to be able to try to sneak into the AFC as a wild card. Philadelphia beat New York, and then Green Bay beat the Pittsburgh Steelers on Sunday night. So, Coach, how did you feel about Week 8? Were any surprises, anything that got you, any moments that were really like, wow, didn't see that, or that was an amazing situation? What got you from Week 8?
Yeah, I feel like I shouldn't be saying this at this point in the season because they've already proved us multiple times that they're legit, but I feel like Green Bay going into Pittsburgh and winning the way they did was something to be noted.
That was a statement.
Yeah, and I mean, granted, Pittsburgh's defense has been very much disappointing
It's
this year,
spotty.
and it's It's honestly crazy to think about because that's probably the last team we would think is having a spotty defense, especially when you're paying a guy $40-something million to get to the quarterback, and for whatever reason, the year he gets paid, he's starting not to do it anymore. So it's interesting. I don't know. Again, Jalen Ramsey suddenly doesn't know how to play cornerback, and all these different things that are going on. But what was most noting to me in the Packers' win against Pittsburgh was, I think, just seeing how I think Matt LaFleur sometimes gets in the way of the Packers' success on offense. Because I believe it's great to stay committed to the running game, especially when you got a guy like Josh Jacobs and the offensive line that Green Bay has. But when they've let Jordan Love just go out and sling the football and just get into a groove and just play his game, he's put up some absolutely insane performances, and this is Exhibit A. Mm-hmm. Like, he out-dueled, Aaron Rodgers, which at the time that Jordan Love got drafted, and people were like, oh my gosh, what are the Packers doing? We have Aaron, we have all of this. Well, shoot, his successor, he's here, man. He's arrived at this point. And as a Bears fan, it's hard to talk about it. It sucks to talk about it, but you got to give the man his flowers. You got to give the organization their flowers. The only thing I would like to see is probably the defense step up a little bit more.
Yeah.
I feel like at times they've gotten a little bit spotty as well, but I think as we get into these colder months, that defense is going to be more and more gruesome and just more violent, especially with Micah Parsons.
Yeah.
I think soon the league is going to finally start to realize that, okay, maybe we should start calling some holding calls on the offense when they're literally gripping Micah Parsons by the neck and holding him. It's crazy. But, yeah, that was honestly my surprise of the week. Not necessarily that Green Bay won, but the way that they won that game.
Yeah. Other than that, I don't think I like that Jets game between Cincinnati. I just want to speak on how happy I am that the Jets finally got a victory. I think Justin Fields unfairly was going through a lot of turmoil from the media and from the owner and different things like that, pretending as though the New York Jets were supposed to turn things around and become this formidable franchise because they got Justin Fields as quarterback and Aaron Glenn, who came from Detroit as a defensive coordinator, that they were just going to automatically become this ferocious and dominant football team, when it was like, no, that was not going to be the case. You guys have been very poor for a very long time.
Yeah, and granted, they've got some bigger names out there.
Yeah.
Like, you look at, the guys on the defensive line, you've got in the secondary, you've got Sauce Gardner. Like, you've got some bigger names all across the field.
Quentin Williams.
Yeah, but you look at the guys that are either backing them up or even just some of your role players, and it's very porous.
Yeah, their rotation ain't the best.
No,
they don't have the greatest depth. If their star players aren't necessarily just on every single night and just kicking butt, the Jets have a hard time winning.
Right,
now,
which granted, Garrett Wilson hasn't been, and Lord behold, that when they finally stopped targeting Garrett Wilson, the offense somewhat looks.
Well, that's how it always goes. Whenever you're not focusing on one guy so much, then you're allowed to just kind of see what's out there and available on every single play. When you have to cater to one guy all the time, it makes it hard to play good sports in general, great team sports. It makes it hard to do that. So I think it's been a blessing in disguise. Now, I think when they reintegrate Garrett, if they can show him like, hey, yo, trust your teammates, trust that Justin will find you in opportunities. This isn't about you always getting 1,000 yards and stuff like that every single season. You're already getting paid, bro. You're getting the money. You've gotten the money. We love you here. So just let this naturally be what it's going to be. And if you're beating your guy every single time off the line of scrimmage, then you will get your targets and you will get your receptions. But just let it be. But I think this is a turning point for them. I think getting a win going into their bye is really going to help them a lot. I think that is the type of encouragement that they needed for the rest of this season. I am going to be interested in seeing how they move forward with things after this bye week and when they come back to play. But
no doubt.
Let's continue to move on in the halftime report. Let's finally get into this Baltimore game with the Bears. So the Bears lose to Baltimore, and I personally feel like this was obviously the trap game that we thought it was going to be. I don't think we played really well. I'll start off with our defense. I think our defense is not good, but we're just very opportunistic. And when we decide to be opportunistic for the last few weeks, and I guess for the majority of this season, when we've tried to take those gambles, we've pretty much been pretty good on taking those bets. And that's been allowing us to get the takeaways and average the type of takeaways that we average and put our offense in better positions to put points on the board. Our offense is still showing signs of being very stagnant after those first 15 to 20 plays are called. We continue to see a drastic drop from, I don't know, drastic, I won't be so exaggerative, but we've seen a lot of drop off from Caleb in comparison to how he starts games versus to how he finishes games comes to fourth quarter. His QB rating goes down, his completion percentage goes down, the yards he picks up goes down. Like, it just becomes a different version of Caleb after those first 15 to 20 plays are called in the game. So that still is bothering me. Those are still major concerns. I prefaced this season by saying that I wasn't going to extend grace to Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams and all of that because of the fact that Caleb was hyped up to be the greatest thing since Andrew Luck, and he was going to be the next Patrick. He had all the intangibles, and that's why we needed to move on from Justin and move on from this. We built the offensive line. We went out and spent money. Ben Johnson is the wonderkin offensive coordinator that has all of the genius. He's Kevin O'Connell on steroids and all of these different things. So, we've gotten all of this. We put this all together. And so I wasn't going to extend grace because with those things, I expected a lot from us this season. Better defense, better offensive line. I thought we would be much better. With that being said, I'm still not extending grace, but I'm going to say that I have to reasonably, I guess, pause on being so down or being so, critical of this Bears team and this and the way the season has gone, because it does take time for things to materialize. It takes time for guys to understand what a coach is asking them to do. It's going to take time for Caleb to figure out how to be on time in this Ben Johnson system. Now, that's going to require Caleb to get better with his feet work still. His footwork is still not where it needs to be. He's still not being on time with a lot of his throws. There's still throws that's behind guys. He's still missing things. So I don't know. I think maybe another offseason, another training camp, and then we might fully see the transition from this team being still in the middle of things to really being at its optimal peak. But for this season, like I said, I wasn't going to come into this season extending grace. But at this point, I guess reasonably, why can't I say these words right now? I have to just kind of be like, okay, it's going to take some time. Do I like it? No, because I really want to be hard and burn both Caleb and Ben a little bit, but it is what it is. I have to just say, obviously, this is going to take a little bit more time for us to really see what this team can really materialize to be on the offensive side of the ball and on the defensive side of the ball with Dennis Allen. What are your thoughts, takeaways from the Chicago Bears after this game against Baltimore? Should we panic or should we not?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any reason. Not any reason. There's no need to panic yet. Yes. I think depending on how these next 3 to 4 games go, you could definitely start to panic. If we, for example, lose the next 3 games. Next 3 games are very winnable. Obviously we have Cincinnati this week. That should be a win in essence. Will it be a win? I'm not so sure. I feel like Cincinnati this entire season has played very well at home. They, I believe, have been a top 3 to 5 offense when they are at home, as far as putting points on the board. So, it's always scary when you're going against a receiver like Jamar Chase and your top corners are out. I think that was also a huge thing when we're talking about the Baltimore game, is literally we did not have one starting corner available. We had Nashawn Wright and Nick McLeod as our top 2 corners, and when that's the case, man, good luck. Like, yeah, you will make Tyler Huntley look like a competent quarterback because that corner room is just terrible.
Depleted. It's depleted.
You know what I mean? But like, and people are, making all these calls. I mean, now we got CJ Gardner Johnson, right? So hopefully he steps in this week and helps us out. Reports have been good, I guess, this whole week of practice. So we'll see how that's going. I will say, I think this was maybe one of the, this was one of the least encouraging games I saw from the offensive line.
Okay.
I thought they were allowing a lot of hurries, a lot of pressures, and a lot of QB hits, which we haven't seen all year, which is good. Kudos to them. I feel like the offensive line has played pretty good for the most part, but Baltimore is one of those teams that sends complicated blitz packages. They've got a very versatile safety in Kyle Hamilton that made his impact felt that entire game and gave the Bears troubles. So I also thought that was probably Ben Johnson's one of the worst play calling games he's had of his career so far.
Right.
And it's going to happen. You're going to have the weeks that he doesn't have a good play calling game. And I understand it is the first year that he's still here. And that's kind of what I was saying at the beginning of the year. Like, yeah, on paper, this team should, in essence, be a really, really good team. But then we started to see how everything was kind of playing out and how bad this defensive line is playing the entire season. They just cannot get to the quarterback. They're okay against the run, but also not good. The only thing that saves that defense right now is Dennis Allen's play calling and the ability to take the ball away. So,
the being opportunistic.
Again, like you were saying. So those are the only two things saving the defense. But I think it's encouraging to see that the offense, that the offensive line is actually a competent group this year. They've looked solid, really, really solid. I know DeAndre Swift is out for this week, so we're going to see a lot of Kyle Monungai. Go me. He's on my fantasy team. So happy about that. But I'm going to end off this whole Bears talk with what I thought about Caleb. I was talking about this pre-show with you, and you weren't necessarily in agreement with me, and I can understand why, but I thought out of these last 2 to 3 games, this was actually Caleb's best game out of this last 3-game stretch.
Okay.
I thought he did not play good against New Orleans.
Right.
I did not think he played well against the team before that as well, which I forget. We played Washington. Which some people say, oh, yeah, he played pretty good that game. I thought he didn't play that well. I thought he was missing a lot of throws he should have made. And it ultimately comes down to, like you mentioned, the footwork. I think his footwork is still very messy. He's not on time with his feet as to where his body needs to be when he's making a certain throw. And that's the only thing that's holding him back at this point, because I think the guy can be accurate when he does have when his body is working in unison is when Caleb Williams is actually a really dangerous quarterback.
Right.
But the only thing holding Caleb Williams back right now is himself, is that he just can't right now figure out how to get his entire body working in unison, in the same flow state. And that's why Jared Goff was so dangerous in Detroit and still is to this day, because granted, he doesn't scramble with the ball as much as Caleb does and try to play make, but guess what he going to do? He going to line up that shoulder every single time where it needs to be to make a certain throw. So he going to make sure his feet are angled a certain way when he's trying to make a certain throw. And that's the difference right now. So still some encouraging things for this Bears team kind of moving into these next couple of games. But, yeah, you look at that Baltimore game, and, yeah, they're a 1-5 team, but I think everybody in the league could agree that they should not be a 1-5 team. That injuries have been riddling them, and they happen to get a lot of guys back for that Bears game. So we will see how they play against Cincinnati. Should be a win, but I will say I am a decent amount scared about that game as well.
All right. Well, let's continue to move on, Coach. I have nothing else to say about the Bears until next week, until we find out what's going to happen in Cincinnati. But let's move on to another team. Let's circle back around to it, because I really want to ask you a couple questions about this. And that's back to the Miami Dolphins. We already said that they need to burn down the building. Mike McDaniel, did they make a mistake by hanging on to Tua as their quarterback? Is that where things have really gone wrong for them? Did the Tyreek Hill signing put them back financially? Was that a mistake as well? Should they have prioritized drafting a quarterback in this draft to give them an opportunity to kind of move Tua to the side for this season, and they could have had an opportunity to do that? Like, where in this timeline do you think that they made their greatest mistakes?
I think it was with some of the moves they made, not this previous offseason, but the one before that, and even the one before that. So the last two, I guess, out of the last 3 years, the first two off seasons. Not this last one. This last one wasn't necessarily terrible. I thought they made some okay acquisitions, and I thought Jalen Ramsey's time in Miami was definitely up. It was time to move him out, and Minkah Fitzpatrick is definitely a solid safety. You know, he's still not necessarily on the younger side. He's still kind of in his prime age as a safety.
But he helps.
Absolutely. So I didn't think that trade was too bad. In regards to Tua, you know, I think there's a lot of surface matter when you're addressing that question, because you do want to marry your quarterback to your offensive coordinator, who also happens to be your head coach, right? Your play caller in Mike McDaniel. And like that, Tua is Mike McDaniel's guy, right? I mean, that's the guy he's been working with, and we've seen Tua put up
some good numbers,
performances at time. And he also has shown at times that he can be consistent. Right? So I think what's really messed with Tua is this whole entire injury thing that's been going on with him. I think it is really affecting him.
The concussions.
Yeah, not really to get like too personal about it, but I do think it's really messing with his like processing time. He's not the same player he was 2 years ago. That the Tua we saw 2 years ago was making way quicker reads, was delivering throws on time accurately. Tua now just looks, I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it.
He looks slow.
And you know, I didn't really want to say it, but it is the case. And I don't think you could really. I know people want to be like, oh, they should have moved on from Tua. You should have moved on from Tua. But like every year, Tua had that stretch of games that was like, if we move on from him, are we gonna see him put up this production more consistently at another franchise? And
maybe not.
Yeah, at this point, I'm not so sure. I think this season kind of shows us what Tua is, but I think every season leading up to this,
what those injuries have made him.
Yeah, exactly. But I think leading up to this season, we've seen it was always a question with Tua because we knew he had the natural talent. We knew he had the intangibles. It was just a matter of, again, staying healthy. And he can't stay healthy. He's gotten really banged up, and now it's literally affected his quarterback play. So now I think is the right time to make that call to move on from Tua going into this next draft. I don't think this draft was the draft to do it. It wasn't a very quarterback-heavy draft with a lot of talent. Yeah, there was some guy. Of course, you had Cam Ward. Of course, you had Jackson Dart. You had Shador. You had Dylan Gabriel. But, like, again, Dylan Gabriel struggling with Cleveland.
Right.
Very short quarterback. Shador hasn't gotten to play yet.
So we don't know.
Jackson Dart.
Up and down.
NFC Rookie of the Month. Right, so he's been up and down though. Cam Ward just in a really bad position. So would it really have been a good idea to bring on a quarterback like that for Miami this year, considering that they have literally made zero investment in that offensive line? Zero. Very similar to how the Chicago Bears offensive line was last year.
I think they haven't had anybody worth noticing or worth talking about since they let Laramie Tunsil go. Because he was formerly on the offensive line for the Miami Dolphins. So I don't think they've had anything since then. But I think for me, it's just a matter of maybe you didn't address it in the draft, but they should have figured out something. You should have figured out somebody to come there. Maybe they should have went after Justin Fields. Maybe they should have did something else. Maybe they could have went after Sam Darnold. I don't know exactly what they could have done, but they should have tried to address the nature of if Tua is really going to be the quarterback for the future. But like you said, if the coach is saying that's his guy, then that's his guy. That's what he has to work with. And if I'm Miami, I don't know if Mike McDaniel gets to return back as my head coach. I don't know. I don't know if Tua gets to come back and be the face of the franchise at the quarterback position for me. I think at this point, if you fire Chris Greer, who was the GM, I think it's about time that you kind of rehaul.
Look, what I'm going to say, sorry to cut you off,
No, you're good.
If you're Miami, you don't make the same mistake that Chicago made.
Right.
In that
Right.
sticking with your same head coach and you're drafting a new quarterback. If you're going to clean house,
Clean
house,
and just start it all over again. Get you a new GM. Let that GM come in and make his decisions about who he wants the coach to be and where he wants to go with the quarterback.
And what quarterback,
position.
right, exactly.
Let him do all of that. Or her, whoever it is. But just, let them have that opportunity to put their thumbprint on how they're going to do things with the Miami Dolphins. Anything else you had to add?
No, man.
All right. Let's move on. Let's talk about Jordan. Let's pivot to the NBA. Let's talk about Michael Jordan and his contributions to the NBC network and to the NBA. Now, they pumped this up like Michael Jordan was going to be contributing to the NBA and NBC, and we thought that was going to be something much different than what it is right now. Obviously, what it seems like is that they did a 4-hour interview, and they're going to chop that up for the entirety of the season. Coach, do you feel swindled? Do you feel bamboozled? Do you feel led amok? Do you feel like you've been lied to? Do you want your goddamn money back? Is my question from you, Coach.
So, look, I'm going to put it like this. I feel like, okay, in every situation, you can either react to it or you can respond to it.
Ooh, look at you being mature. Come on, let me see. Where's this going?
The reactive side of Conrad
wants
to say that I got scammed.
Ooh.
That I was absolutely just got false advertised out of the ass.
Ooh, come on.
That I feel like Jordan just pulled an ultimate heist and just bagged a whole bunch of money that he probably lost on his mansion in freaking Lake Forest.
Yes.
The responding Conrad.
Okay. The more mature Conrad.
Right? Coach Conrad.
Okay.
Would say and is saying that I definitely still see the benefit in having this interview, and I do think Jordan accepting to do this interview was definitely a step in the right direction for the NBA.
Okay.
Because we've seen Jordan's unwillingness to work with the NBA for the past couple of seasons. And he said why.
For years,
right? And he said why, that, because of the amount of time he's committed to the game of basketball when he was in the league, he really neglected, I think was the term he used, his family, right? His immediate family and his kids and all those things. And he really wanted to appreciate that more and be with them more. And him coming back to the NBA and doing this interview with them is game changing. I think it's different because people may talk to us or may comment and be like, oh, well, what about the whole Last Dance documentary? He was willing to talk about basketball then. I think it's different because, again, that's a whole Netflix series that he got paid for. Again, wasn't necessarily associated with the NBA.
No.
Right? Was literally a story that Jordan was able to put together.
Yeah.
In a way, right?
And tell it from his perspective.
Exactly. But with this interview, it's almost a little bit more vulnerable side of Jordan, as the player, but also as the retired, GOATs.
Mm-hmm.
And we see him answering questions that NBC was able to put together and genuinely ask the guy. I thought it was very cool and almost put me in a state of awe, when he was just talking about that whole situation of him at the rental house and him being nervous during that free throw. How cool is it to hear Michael Jordan just talking about basketball again, but just in
or even just talking like a real old man.
That too, you know what I mean?
Saying people see me as Michael Jordan and it's hard for me as Michael Jordan to not want to live up to the expectations of Michael Jordan, right?
Because that's just how competitive the man is. That he just.
But that's how strong his legacy is.
That too, right? And it's you see these older heads in Shaq. Obviously, he's on inside the NBA, and you look at Chuck. You look at all these guys that have contributed to the NBA in the past, but none of their legacies come close to comparing with Jordan's. And Jordan's willingness to step out, of course he got paid. Happy he got paid. Deserves to get paid. He's the GOAT. Whatever. Let him get his money up some more. But the fact that he was still willing to do the interview that wasn't necessarily, I think, as controlled as the Last Dance documentary was is definitely a huge step forward for the NBA.
Yeah, I mean, I feel bamboozled. I thought I was gonna get commentation from Jordan not on the sideline, but I thought he would appear at the table and kind of talk at halftime and different things like that. But shout out to the Gilbert Arenas, I guess podcast and show when they were talking about Jordan's contribution, and they were talking about how you can't really have Jordan talking about the game and talking about players because what if he was to say something like if could you like if Jordan was to be like this player isn't good or being like Luka doesn't get back on defense and that's why he'll never be a champion.
Mhm.
Do you know how quick and how fast an NBA player's stock will go down if Michael
Yeah.
Jordan was to tell you live on TV that the player that you think is good will never be able to help your franchise win a championship because he doesn't play both sides of the basketball or his IQ is not where it's supposed to be.
You know, not only does that drop the stock in the fans' views, but how much does that drop the stock in the views of organizations?
Oh yeah.
Hearing that from Michael Jordan himself.
Yeah. Now a player doesn't get paid because Michael Jordan said you'll never be able to bring us a championship. Like that's how powerful in a way his opinion would be. That's how much weighted his opinion would have. And I think as much as I would have desired that when they brought that up on the Gilbert Arenas podcast, I was just like, okay, that I get it now. That makes a lot of sense. He can. I think it was Kenyon Martin who really was the one that was pressing the issue on it between him and Gilbert, and he was saying like, "There's no way you can have Michael doing it because of how much his opinion really matters and how much it holds.
Yeah.
It would kill a guy, you know what I'm saying? Not and it's not on purpose. It would be just Michael giving his honest opinion.
Right, yeah.
But his honest opinion would mean so much to fans and to owners and just people in general that it would make you side-eye that player if it was a critique in a negative way. And I won't say negative, but it was just, I don't want to say negative, but that's how people would view it. Vice versa could be done if he's praising you at the same time, right? If he's saying like Anthony Edwards is going to be the next greatest thing, stock goes up even more. You know what I mean? So while simultaneously it could be beneficial, I think the negative part of it would be so dramatic and so drastic that you don't want to have that a part
And
of
I
it.
think people undermine that a lot when talking about this situation. And people are probably going to say that because I'm sure that'll end up being a clip that we post on TikTok. And people are probably going to be in the comment section like, well, he was the Hornets, part owner and all this stuff.
And they didn't do so
they
high.
didn't do anything.
Yeah.
It's a different ball game, man.
Yeah.
Like, you guys understand that Jordan wasn't nearly as involved in that whole
Ownership.
process and all that
And
stuff.
he wasn't playing, right?
Yeah,
You just assume that because
exactly.
he's the GOAT, that he's going to win at everything. And he's going to be a great owner. Not necessarily. Like,
Yeah.
a lot of great players don't transition to be great executive. A lot of great players don't transition into being great coaches and stuff like that. So I'm not necessarily shocked and surprised by that, but I do think his words hold such a weight that you don't want him saying anything.
Yeah.
But all right, let's continue to move on. Let's get into the NCAA, and we can be quick on them. They are deciding and thinking about between the NCAA and what they're thinking on with all the things that's going on in the NBA with gambling and stuff like that, where you got Chauncey Billups and Terry Rozier, Damon Jones, and more people. Jonte Porter, who has a lifetime ban on the NBA, and that's Michael Porter Jr.'s brother. And you've obviously had the history of Tim Donaghy, who was a former referee who went down for ABA gambling and stuff like that and rigging games. The NCAA is right now deciding whether or not their college athletes will have the ability to legally bet on professional sports games. How do you feel about that?
I think there wasn't a worse time they could have chose to bring this conversation up.
They don't read the room well, huh?
They don't. And I feel like that's just the legacy of the NCAA with a lot of things, with a lot of different issues. And that's why people call for the abolishment of the NCAA at times, because of stuff like this, man. How are you going to start this conversation when we've got this whole FBI investigation that Adam Silver is probably going to have to testify at some point? They've already called for his name.
Really?
Yes. They want him to testify and provide reports and all this stuff.
Interesting. Okay.
Why start the betting conversation now? Why not last year? Why not next year? Right now, literally, not even 2 weeks ago, this stuff happened.
And you want to talk about
Just
letting your college athletes bet.
And I think that first word you said, college athletes, college kids, talk about that stuff. Kids that could be easily swayed. And what are you going to consider a professional sport? Are we not going to consider?
Well, it's allowing them to bet on it. So I guess my thing.
So
is,
at this point, are we not going to consider college sports professional sports?
No. That's the whole purpose of the NIL deal. The NIL deal is to reclassify and specify that they're not professional athletes, but to give them the ability to still make a little profit off their name and likeness, because that's opposite of technically being a professionally signed athlete, but just people shouldn't be able to use your name and image and you not be able to receive anything from it.
But now you see why these blurred and hazy lines are going to cause a lot of problems down the line.
I think for me, letting them bet on professional sports is just getting them into the gambling circuit too early. It's a letting them to get. It's like dipping your water into a place that's really hot, and then you eventually dive in, and then you scolding yourself. I think that's what's happening, right? You're gonna let them muddy the waters with like, okay, we can bet on Kevin Durant and what he's gonna do and blah 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 blah, and then it's like you're teaching them this process. So by the time they become professional athletes, they necessarily don't have to bet on themselves, but they know how to manage it. They know how to read the bets and say, oh, I got 23 points on me tonight,
and
I bet.
Telling you right now, one of them boys at that NCAA whole committee that probably oversaw this whole what's going to have this conversation is probably involved in this whole betting
NBA
thing that's going on.
Probably. All I know is I'm not necessarily. I think
don't shoot the messenger.
I agree with you. They're not reading the room. I don't necessarily think it's going to be a bad. I'll say this. I can't sit here and justify and say they shouldn't be able to do it. I just don't think it's necessarily something that you should even talk about, should address, should even encourage. I think it's something that you should.
Yeah, I feel like at that point you're almost the fact that you're having the conversation about it. I feel like at that point you're almost encouraging it.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like I can't tell them that they shouldn't be allowed to bet on a league that they're not a part of. You know what I'm saying? They're not swaying the numbers. I just don't think it's good to encourage it, because some of them will become professional athletes. And if they do, they've already kind of learned the ins and outs of how to do this from this part of it. And so when they get on the other side of being a player that's professionally, what if they're looking at their lines and they're going, oh, they got me at 23 tonight?
Hey, and gambling addictions are a real thing.
Yes. And so I don't like it. But again, they're not betting on themselves. Obviously, they wouldn't do that. They're betting on professional sports. I can't say that it's illegal for them to do so. I just don't think it's a good thing to encourage it because of the domino effects and ramifications that it could potentially have in the future for some of these athletes who make it to the pro level.
I agree with you on that.
All right, Coach, that has been the halftime report. Again, reminder to follow Coach Malcolm at Coach M_got it, and to follow Coach Conrad at Coach KDZ, along with following the Halftime Podcast on YouTube at the Halftime Pod, and subscribing and liking our content. All right, Coach, you ready to get into the last segment for today?
Let's wrap this thing up, man.
All right, let's move into the halftime predictions. Yeah. Whipping it up. All right, Coach, let's go ahead and get into these predictions.
Let's do it.
Week 9, we already saw Baltimore and Miami go at it. We saw that Baltimore put BTA against Miami, and that's why all of this hoopla has been around Miami. We got the Bears against the Bengals. Just quickly reminder for the halftime community, as always, get your videos in to us and let us know what you think the score is going to be at halftime of the Chicago Bears versus Cincinnati game. If you have the score correct, you will win a $50 gift card courtesy of the Halftime Podcast. All right, make sure you tag us in it at the Halftime Podcast, or you can tag either myself or Coach Conrad individually in that video when you post it, and that's how we'll be able to see it. But Coach, who you got between the Bears and Cincinnati this Sunday?
Yeah, I'm gonna take the Bears, but I think it's a scary game. I already said my thoughts on how I think this game might go, but I will say at halftime I've got the Bears winning 17-7.
17-7 at halftime, and the overall score just for fun.
The overall score, I'm gonna give it. Let's see, 34
Ooh.
to 10.
Okay, a big win for the Bears.
Yeah.
All right, okay. I got the Bears winning as well. I think it's going to be at halftime 10-7. Bears leading by 3. I think we win this game 24-10. I think we win by 14. I think Cincinnati gets one more field goal in, and that's about it. All right, Atlanta and New England. I got New England.
Yeah, I'm going to take New England as well. Atlanta's been insanely inconsistent this whole year.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take New England.
All right, New York and San Francisco. Brock Purdy is still not playing. Mac Jones is still the quarterback. I think I'm going to go with San Francisco for this one, even though I kind of think New York might make, noise on this one and be able to pull it out, but I think I'll go with old trustee Kyle Shanahan.
I think the Giants losing Cam Scatterboo was definitely a huge loss.
It's a big loss. It's a big loss.
That's definitely sways into my thinking on this, but I'm still going to take New York.
I
think that defense could cause some problems.
Indianapolis and Pittsburgh. I think that this is a game where we either find out whether or not Indianapolis is the real deal and they can continue to do this, or we find out that the Steelers are one of those teams where when it's time for them to really adjust and get themselves back on track, they will do so. I'm going to take Pittsburgh.
I'm going to take Pittsburgh as well. I think this game is going to reassure Pittsburgh fans why Mike Tomlin has been the head coach of this franchise for quite some time.
Yes. All right, Tennessee and the Chargers. I got the Chargers for this one.
Yeah, give me the Chargers on that as well.
All right, Detroit and Minnesota. As much as I want to say Detroit, I got a strange feeling about this Minnesota and Detroit game, so I'm going to go Minnesota in a close one.
Okay, in Detroit. I'm going to take Detroit, I think.
BTA?
No, close game.
Okay.
I think these games are always close games.
Okay.
But I'm going to take Detroit in this one.
All right, Green Bay and Carolina. I'm not sure if Bryce Young is going to play. I got Green Bay, though, regardless of Bryce playing or not.
Carolina.
Really?
All I'm going to say. Carolina.
Wow, okay. Houston and Denver.
At Lambeau, too. I don't care. Give me Carolina.
All right, I got Houston and Denver. I got Houston.
God, man, that Denver team is just so annoying to watch. They're boring, but give me Denver.
All right. We got the Rams versus the Saints versus the G League Saints. Let's go with the Rams there. That's what I got.
Yeah, give me the Rams as well. Yeah,
all right.
Matthew Stafford, legacy performance.
We got a close one, I think could be potentially close between Las Vegas and Jacksonville. I'm not a believer in neither one of these teams, but if I have to pick, I'm going to go with Jacksonville for this one.
I'm going to go with the Raiders on this one. I think Ashton Genty has a huge game here.
Okay. Buffalo and Kansas City.
Classic. You know it's going to be a classic.
It's going to be a classic game.
Why don't they flex this to the Sunday night game?
I have no idea, but I think this is going to be a good BTA moment for Kansas City. I don't think Buffalo does anything.
In Buffalo.
Damn, Kansas City comes in Buffalo and makes a statement that this is not that type of year and we are not on that type of time. This ain't this and that ain't that. That's what I think is going to happen for Kansas City against Buffalo. I got BTA.
Okay, I'm going to take Kansas City as well, but I got it being a back and forth, just
shootout. All right, classic game. All right, Seattle and Washington for Sunday night. Who do you got?
I'm taking Seattle, man. They've been making some noise all season. They've been a solid team. I think they're one of those sneaky teams.
Yes.
Even though they really shouldn't be a sneaky team, they've got a lot of talent on both sides of the ball. Yeah. So give me Seattle.
I got Seattle too. Washington has been too inconsistent, and I just don't think that they have all the pieces. I think they need to regather and recalculate some things this summer.
James Daniels still out?
I think he is. I don't think he's playing this game. So I think I got Seattle for that one. And then Monday night, we got Dallas and Arizona. I'm not necessarily hyped about this game. It's been a minute since I've actually watched the Dallas game. So I do feel I will be a little excited just to watch Dak Prescott this time around for Dallas.
Jaden Daniels will start versus the Seahawks.
He will. Still doesn't matter.
What is Washington doing, man?
I don't know. We're gonna talk about that because if he get hurt again, they need to be hit for malpractice. But I got Dallas against Arizona.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Dallas as well. I think they play a good game here, and Dak Prescott lights it up.
All
in
right.
Arlington.
All right, Coach, that has been the halftime predictions, and this has been another episode of the Halftime Podcast. Again, what episode is this, Coach?
Episode 53.
Episode 53. And we want to remind everybody again to follow us and subscribe to everything. We see you like our content. We see you liking our shorts. The numbers are going up except on the subscriber part. So we need you to click that subscription, click those likes, and comment at the videos on YouTube as well. Along with following both me and Coach on Instagram if you want to get to know us, talk to us about anything basketball related, AAU clubs, training for your young athletes, or if you just want to talk to us about anything we've said on the show, we're more than free to have those conversations. You can follow Coach Conrad at Coach KDZ. You can follow me, Coach Malcolm, at Coach M_got it. And as well, we have merchandise out. Again, we want to remind you those codes and discounts are under our link in our bio, but I'll give them to you again. Halftime free if you pay over $100 and you get free shipping. Halftime 5 for 5% off all your purchases right now. No amount matters. And you got halftime 15. That's for 15% off anything over $70 or more. All right, Coach, you ready to rock on up out of here?
Let's do it, man. You know how we rock this thing up.
As always, you know how we leave. It's C-Red and bear down, baby.